Have a good one.
Oh, we appreciate
Agreed.
it. We really appreciate it.
Certainly.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. All right, next on the agenda is the Martha's Vineyard Commission State of the Ponds reports, the Up Island Watershed Management Planning, and Rachel Sorrentino is here to speak with us, RAS Development Solutions.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our project and what we've been up to. Peter Cook is well aware. He has been working alongside us with this. I just want to share with you a little bit about what MVC is doing with watershed management planning, but also with what we have been doing as far as ongoing monitoring is concerned. And that will be Sherry Casso talking to us about the pond reports, the state of the ponds. But I guess the first thing as I thought about this presentation, what I wanted to share is you all know very well what the MVC works on as far as taking water quality information, land use information. But I guess one of the things we're finding is that it's not always clear how the MVC is using that information and data. One of the key things that we are working towards at this point is to clean up the ponds. And that is how we're working. We're working through the management the watershed management plan to clean up the ponds. So that's our primary concern at the moment. We're going through this process. The commitment that the MVC has made to cleaning up the ponds includes getting a grant from the DEP to monitor existing conditions, report on the existing conditions, and also to propose some possible solutions so that we can rehabilitate the ponds, restore the ponds where in the areas where it's most needed. So let me show you my presentation. Let's see. Jennifer, can I share my screen?
Sorry, Rachel. I had to just undo that setting. We've had some issues with things recently, so that's why it was not working.
Okay. So I think you can see my screen now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll start with what does the MVC do from a planning perspective? And Chris Seidel has put together a graphic for us that we can see how Martha's Vineyard has developed over time. So this video will show, you look for the black dots first. These are all building development through time. And we can see how quickly and through which time periods the island has developed.
Stop.
So that is really what we're planning for. That's I think an extreme circumstance, but it's a possibility. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, what we're planning for. So water resources and watershed management, our strategy is to really develop resources so that to help inform you in your decision-making processes. So as we gather data, and as you'll see with the pond reports, we can really sort of come to give you guys the information that you need when a proposal comes in front of you so that you can evaluate it with as much information as possible. We collect water quality data according to the federal and state guidelines. And we also collect and analyze land use data. And then we also support implementation, planning, and permitting. So really the main goal to take away from this presentation is that our team would really like to be able to answer whatever questions you have and provide whatever information that you need to help with watershed management planning. So we can talk a bit about I'll move sort of quickly through the water quality information so we can move on to the reports. But this is really what you would see with a perfect pond. You would see eelgrass, you would see a very biodiverse environment, and some of the other chemical markers, the temperature of the water, the pH, dissolved oxygen, and water clarity. Oops, sorry, go back. And with a threatened pond, make sure this doesn't, there we go. With a threatened pond, you would see eutrophication. And this is what we're seeing in some of the ponds. We're seeing bacterial or algae blooms, which are stressing the environment for all of the animals and plants that live in there. The big key that we're finding to managing this whole process is to manage the nutrients that are going into the pond. And so this is where we come to the 208 process, what we call the 208 process, which is really developing a management plan for how we'll move forward. But before we move on to the 208 process, I'm going to ask Sherry to talk a little bit about the current state of the ponds with the state of the pond reports. I will send you all this presentation later so you can take a closer look at each of the ponds. But Sherry can summarize for you what the status of the quality of health and the health of the ponds are.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for taking the time and having us come and talk to you. I have done the state of the pond reports for all of the ponds that I have monitored on the island. I monitor 13 ponds around the island. This one is Chilmark Pond. It just is a basic summary of conditions for that year. The 2021 data I should be having shortly, and there will be a similar pond report written for the 2021 data. And then we're going to also do like a synopsis to see what the trends mean. We'll be doing that later this year, but first we'll be doing the 2021 data. This is just, a lot of people don't want to read a long report, so this is just a basic snapshot of the situation that the pond is in now. And it's a good talking point. People can just have a general idea of what's going on. Okay, Rachel?
So this is Chilmark. This is James Pond. We're also working on James Pond, Menemsha, and Squibnocket. So just to give you a quick sense of what we are looking at, as you see on, I don't know if you can see my arrow, but for Squibnocket, we have 2 sampling stations there. The information and data that we get from those sampling stations includes water temperature, dissolved oxygen, chlorophyll, nitrogen, phosphorus, all of the chemical components that would indicate a stressed environment. And what we can see here, let me see if I can, I'm not sure I can make my screen bigger, but what you see here is the nitrogen gradient. And if you can see this red line, this is the threshold of what would be a healthy nitrogen load for each pond. So clearly Squibnocket is above this nitrogen threshold. So that's one of the things that we are addressing. And when we say that we're working on solutions, we're working on solutions that will pull nitrogen out of the system, get it back underneath the red line, so that the habitat can be restored and that it's just generally a healthier pond. This is Tisbury Great Pond also. Sherry is also working on cyanobacteria studies. I'll let her say more about that. On the left, you see a picture of Squibnocket Pond in July, where we did find a cyanobacteria bloom, but Sherry can chime in on that.
Thanks again. Yes, several years ago, I found a bloom in Chilmark Pond. And since then, I have formed a partnership with UNH, who was instrumental. They helped create the monitoring program for cyanobacteria with EPA. So I've been working with them. The ponds that I monitor for water quality, we have also been looking at for cyanobacteria. We did see blooms this year in both Squibnocket and in Chilmark Pond. Squibnocket has a very funny cyano population because they're very salt tolerant, which usually cyanobacteria is in freshwater, but this is a salt tolerant species. So we're looking at that. And we're trying to find out, we use fluorometry to determine the types of pigments that are found in cyanobacteria. And we're putting that together so that we can put together a regression line, and we can determine just from the fluorometry data how much cyanobacteria is in the water, and we could use that to predict blooms. So it's been a really interesting year. The pictures on the right, those are the cyanobacteria that we see under the microscope. There's cyanobacteria in all systems, but it's just when it multiplies and it gets to a bloom is when it can be serious. But we decided to do the island wide just to see our baseline, to see what species are in which ponds. And so it's been really interesting, and we definitely plan on continuing that next year.
So moving to the 208 report, and from a planning perspective, what you'll see on the right is a pond tour of Tisbury Great Pond. Chris Seidel has put this together for us. I think it will play. Chris Seidel has put this together for us along with Ollie Becker, who did some drone photos so that we could see and document how the ponds look. And while at the same time these drone shots were taken, we also took eDNA samples in the ponds so we can see what is living in the ponds at this time. An eDNA sample will give you a good sense of what species have been in the pond, and most recently in the last couple of days to a week. So this is a way for us to survey what is living in the habitat. So from a planning perspective, we are assessing and documenting the current physical conditions of the pond, including water quality. We are documenting and analyzing land use information that includes development status, how much of the watersheds have been developed residentially versus agriculturally, what's in conservation. Chris Seidel has helped us to document where conservation land is, so we can have a good sense of how nitrogen loads are impacted at various places in the ponds. We're evaluating potential solutions, which I think is what's most interesting and relevant for your board as we look forward to identifying potential solutions for taking nitrogen out of the pond, preventing nitrogen from going into the pond related to development. We will be able to identify and target particular areas of each pond, but also target which solutions are most appropriate. So if it's a septic solution, we could look at where that is most efficiently applied versus in an agricultural area. We may use a different solution, a permeable reactive barrier, for example. Use of shellfish as a way to clean the pond water that's already existing there. We're considering a lot of different options. We will also help with plan implementation. So that's that piece of it will be a cost benefit analysis of which solutions are really the best for each particular area, but also where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. And then another piece of what we're working on is developing an information platform. We will keep all of the data that we are gathering, all of the conversations that we're having on a website for everybody, that everybody will have access to, so you can track progress. And if you have any questions, you can either find resources there or you can reach us that way. That is a work in progress. Let's see. As I said, we're focusing on solutions. This is the tour of Chilmark Pond. We're identifying areas of concern. There are areas of Chilmark Pond in particular that are concerning, areas of Squibnaucket with cyanobacteria that are concerning. We'll develop a matrix of what's the most effective strategy and support and implementation. These are some of the management solutions that we're working on. Pond openings, dredging. I'll let you read the list on your own. I will say that as we think about, as we have looked through the data, there is a significant component of nitrogen coming from septic systems. So that's something that we'll be looking closely at. And then finally, we have a Ponds of the Vineyard webpage that is up now. And on this pet web page, the link is on this in the presentation, which you will get later. There's general information about each pond. There's a virtual pond tour for each of the ponds, of the Up Island ponds. We have data results that can be found there if you are looking for water quality data. And also we'll be including the documentation that we're gathering for the 208 report. And this is the link. And that is that. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly or to Sherry. You can reach out to Sherry as well. And that's that. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Sherry. This is very important work you're doing. And hopefully it'll have an impact on action and implementation, like you say. As you know, we actually have, as you probably know, we have a Chilmark town bylaw that says that putting out herbicides or pesticides into Squibnaucket Pond is prohibited. And however, and people have wanted to apply rodeo, which is a glyphosate-based material used to get rid of the Phragmites. And I believe there's no bylaw governing Chilmark Pond. Is that an issue that we should focus in on, do you believe? Or is that something that I can just ask you to research for us? Because we have it in Squibnaucket. I know the issue of the Phragmites is there probably from all the nitrogen, but it's a concern I have. And I'm wondering if you can help us with that.
Yeah, definitely. We could help you with that. There's also one of the remediation efforts we're looking at is Emma Green Beach has started doing Phragmites harvesting. So you actually have the Phragmites grow to a level where it's used most of its nitrogen, and before it goes to seed, they cut it and remove it from the watershed. And they can either use it for biochar or they can use it for animal feed. So that's a remediation rather than actually killing it with pesticides. You can cut it and use it in another form. So that's good. But yeah, definitely, I think Chilmark Pond should have a pesticides and herbicides should have a ban down there also. There are other ways to do it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we could help you. We'd be happy to help you with that.
I mean, I'm sure the members of the planning board are all on board in terms of doing whatever we can do to partake in the process of making our ponds healthier. And I know that we don't, I'm not sure what power we have except to get out information to people. I think the boards of health are so important in terms of this, but I'm sure I'm jumping ahead about the septic systems, but just a quick question. It's a question of whether we ask or demand that existing septic systems get upgraded in areas that are problematic, or is it just new construction? And it's probably something you can't answer right now. You're just in the documentation segment of this, I understand, not in the implementation, but just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, the town of Tisbury has the health department in the town of Tisbury has a bylaw that if you need to either do new construction, if you need to upgrade your septic, or if you choose to build more, put more bedrooms on, you have to have an IA system that is at least 19, and they're looking at 12. So it is being done. And, you know, we could look at the areas that are closest to the pond and work with those. There's some people that would, I think, just for the good of the pond, would upgrade their septic system if they knew, so that are close to the area. So it is being looked at.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments from board members?
May I? Chris Murphy.
Sure, Chris.
So someday, with a little luck, we're going to be coming to the town, or somebody is coming to the town with proposed bylaw changes that will give the Board of Health something to work from. Right now, the Board of Health is limited in what they can and can't do. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly. They can do a lot, but it would take a vote of the town saying to the Board of Health, this is what we want you to do, in order to have them do it. You know, anytime you say to somebody, you're looking at a $20,000 upgrade, you're going to hear screaming. And we better have a very good set of reasons before we're ready to say that. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to collect enough data where the planning board, the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission can use this data to further enhance the ponds. It's not like we're not trying. This has been going on for years. Going around this winter looking at the farms, I'm really impressed at all of the work that's been done so far to make sure that the farmers are not part of the problem. I mean, it's work they've done themselves. It really looks good. But we've got further to go on this. And so as this process goes forward, I think it's going to be good in many ways. One of them will be, for instance, in the piece you were just looking at Peaked Hill, you'll be able to go to that and say, you know, what's the effect of this? Is that in the watershed for Tisbury Great Pond or Chilmark Pond, or does it drain down to the North Shore? And I really couldn't tell you. That's pretty close to the break-even point of going to Chilmark Pond one way and down to, I'm not even sure where, Gans's maybe on the other side. But it makes a difference. If it's going straight out into the Sound, it's not having such an effect on the town ponds. So I think it's important that, and thank you for all listening. Thank you all for listening. This is something that we're just getting started on in so many ways, and it's going to come back again and again. And hopefully we're building a toolkit that we can all use.
Thank you, Chris. Your point is well taken about the planning board perhaps creating a bylaw enabling the Board of Health to take action. And I think it's a great thing. It's a great thing that's happening. We need.
Yeah, Rich, my hope is that by the time we're there, we'll have enough data so that nobody can say to you, yeah, you're just making this stuff up. We don't really need to do that. You're just hurting the developers or whatever. It's all about protecting the ponds, and that the ponds are a great part of our lives for everyone on this call and more.
No doubt. And, you know, we've been busy doing this affordable housing concept, and it's been taking a lot of our time, but our intent has been to really work on the master plan. It would be great to use some of this information to include in the master plan document, which will give us, you know, clarity and give the town people clarity about the future of the town and the importance of quality of our waterways.
Yeah, well, from a very handy, I mean, when I look at our Martha's Vineyard Commission, which, you know, does so much for Chilmark in so many different ways, this is a quiet way they're putting together a website where anybody can go to it on their laptop and say, you know, what's going on in Chilmark Pond, or how much nitrogen is coming from farm animals, or how much is coming from geese, or whatever. That information is, it's really helpful when you're having a discussion about where you're going at a town level, to have a website you can pull up and it'll give you that information. And Sherry, Chris Seidel, a number of people have been working very hard to make this happen.
Thank you for pointing that out, the importance of the participation of the commission on this. And yes, we appreciate all their efforts and a lot of things that they help us get accomplished here in Chilmark. Anyone else have a comment or concern or?
Person named Heather has their hand up.
Okay, Heather.
Yeah, hi, my name's Heather Norton, and I am very excited to hear all the presentations about this. I live on Chilmark Pond, and it's very concerning. And I was just very encouraged just now to hear that the Tisbury already has a requirement, which I didn't know. And I'm hoping that maybe there's some way to track down some information about how that, the effects of, you know, what's happened so far since they established it, how they went about doing that, since we're hopefully headed in that direction ourselves. It would be nice to have, you know, a proactive thing like that to try to combat the nitrogen that seems to be coming mostly from septics instead of just relying on people's goodwill.
Great, thank you, Heather. I think we'll have to check with the Board of Health members on that. And I assume they're aware. They've worked pretty closely with other island boards of health during COVID. And I have a feeling they're aware of it, but I'm going to check into it. Peter, looks like you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, Chilmark has joined the green community, and all of these efforts seem to me to be part of that commitment of Chilmark being a green community is going to have more and more parts to it, it seems to me. And we're looking at this very carefully as we're looking at Peaked Hill Pastures, because green community starts out being involved only with town projects or with town buildings and so forth. But as we develop things as a town, I'm sure it's going to get into more and more places with more and more suggestions of how to improve our goal of getting to make that a reality, or more of a reality. So this is all extremely useful, and I think it has to be part, as Richie mentioned, as part of our master plan effort.
Thank you, Peter. I'm looking to see if anybody else has their hand up. If I don't see anybody, but if you would like to speak up, please do. If not, we very much appreciate the knowledge, and I'm sure we'll all be checking out the website and getting learned on the more learned on the subject. We really appreciate it. It's a very clear presentation and very valuable. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then. In that case, we can move on to our next item on the agenda.